Welcome back to Newsmaker Live with me, Kendall Burton. Our guest tonight is Mary Francis, attorney and human rights activist, coordinator of the National Center for Legal Aid and Human Rights Incorporated. U.S. officials who were concerned about the police killings dating back to 2011 reportedly met with you or held discussions with you. What did you talk about?
I can't recall stating that they met with me as such, I mean to say.
Was there any communication whatsoever?
You see, the U.S. and those other international international human rights bodies, there are ways and means of finding out what goes on in the country, and they keep in touch with civil society organizations. And it is nothing new. For the past 10 years, I would say, since this organization has existed, I usually get calls or liaise with the officials from the U.S. Embassy who try to collate information as to human rights in St. Lucia, along with other members of civil society. And yes, I would sometimes inform them as to what's happening.
Okay. Let's go back to the Prime Minister's address to the nation last night, because he referred to inquests into some of the police killings. In the address, he said that the inquests into the 5 Vieux-Fort deaths are ongoing, but then he referred to 6 other inquests. So let's listen to what he had to say, and then we come back to you.
Of the 6 inquests which have been completed, the coroners returned verdicts of death by lawful act. 1 inquest, I have been advised, has been remitted for a new inquest. Since the United States has decided to impose sanctions on members of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, that it is reasonably clear that it does not have confidence in the outcome of the inquest to bring those responsible for the killings to justice.
What do you think, Ms. Francis, that the United States has no confidence in the local judicial system, or at least in the system of inquests?
See, this is the problem. That is why, again, I am going back and I keep harping on the inquiry. It is not just the question of the inquest and then the verdict. It is the whole question of what took place. The inquest, yes, the inquest would probably bring some closure and so forth, but there are deeper questions which need to be answered. And we're talking about the inquest. I do not know that the inquest can bring about any proper verdicts the way it is being held. I think the whole system, the law, is, as the Prime Minister made reference in his statement, is all about the rule of law. You have the judiciary, you have a separation of powers in our Constitution. And you have the question, when you have a natural death, the Coroner's Act demands that the coroner hold an inquest. Now look at the time it takes. The whole spirit of the law has been violated. The major killings took place in 2011. By on 5th of May, there were 5 killings. It took almost a whole year before the files could have been sent to the DPP's office. Requests and pressure was being put on those files were not. Why did it take so long? I mean, the Coroner's Act does anticipate a quicker process, because it even speaks about the coroner viewing the body. I mean to say, if it takes 11 months, bodies have been buried and so forth. So it shows that it intends that the files be put together quickly to allow the coroner to quickly come to a hearing, hold the inquest and so forth. That is not being done. And furthermore, the idea of sending those files across to the DPP, this circuitous fashion that is being used, it is wrong, because nowhere in the Coroner's Act of 2002 does it speak about the DPP's office. This is not a trial. This is a trial. You send it to the DPP, it gets stuck there. You inquire from the DPP, she says she hasn't received the files, back and forth, and so forth. In the meantime, the family members are sad, they are broken, they are hearing nothing, and so on. And then the DPP would then send it to the coroner. The coroner remits it back to the DPP. That's what happened in the inquest that the Prime Minister made reference to. One of them is being remitted. In October last year, I think it was, the decision, the verdict was arrived at that there was unlawful killing. the file was sent to the DPP's office, or should have been sent. So you see what I'm saying? The police would take the files to the DPP's office. DPP takes a long time, refers it to the coroner. Coroner sends it back to the DPP if in case they find there is a verdict of unlawful killing. It should go from the police to the coroner. Let the inquest be held, and the verdict comes through, then it will go to the DPP. So all this thing, I think, as a modern society in this day and age, we have to follow the law. If it is not specific, if it is not strong, let us amend the law or enact regulations to actually deal with those situations. It took a whole year before it could have reached the coroner. There was one which started in January last year. It is still ongoing. The jurors get fed up, and when something is stretched out over such a long period of time. So definitely it is not working well, and the Americans have no confidence in it. It's because of all those delays and this type of back and forth and so on. For instance, the V45, 5, the last sitting was in February. It began in October last year, a whole year. And since February, there has been a halt. Why? Because forensics evidence of guns, they are still awaiting that. Since 2011, definitely there is no urgency in really bringing those things to closure. And we have to look behind that. We have to look to the whole idea of why that strategy was adopted of killing people and pretend it is a way of dealing with crime. We have to look, these are the questions they want to know, and that is where the element maybe of frustration on the part of the US and frustration on the part of other solutions, the whole idea of, there are things which are shady about that. There's information which the Prime Minister could not reveal openly. I mean, I didn't expect he would reveal certain things openly to the public, but certainly there is sufficient information there which is leading to that those deaths would not were extrajudicial, and therefore a deeper look has to be given to the whole situation. So the saying that the 6 inquests have been held and then the verdict came to lawful killing, most times family members are not even aware of those inquests. Where is the transparency? I can tell you this thing is a whole sham in some cases. The family members are not being told who are the witnesses. The very police who have conducted and carried out those killings, they are the only ones there giving evidence at the time. There is no lawyer to actually cross-examine or to bring, it's not a trial, but a lawyer can be there to assist to extract the facts and so forth. I had to actually put a case submit to the magistrate in one case to agree that the family members have a right to be represented by counsel to be there. So the whole thing is to me is not transparent sufficiently, and in terms of the way it is done, family members are not being told, the witnesses and so forth. We have to strengthen the Coroner's Act. We have to open up the process. Then I think there can be more credibility, more reliability on the whole thing. But at the same time, yes, you have them, but what is the outcome? What is the outcome, and why it took so long to have have those inquests? Why the pressure had to be exerted to have the inquest? And you mean to tell me 5 men killed in one night? That's unprecedented for the Caribbean and St. Lucia, and I hope that will never happen in this country again. And up to now, the family members are at a loss as to what took place, you know.
But the Prime Minister, go ahead.
I think there needs to have some kind of reforming of the whole Coroner's Act. The Prime Minister did speak about measures that he would take to probably solve the situation and to avoid a repetition. He said that he would bring about some special legislation.
But did I give you any kind of consolation? But
I'm saying if we already have a Coroner's Act, there is legislation, we have to strengthen it. We must strengthen the legislation which we have. And the police officers must be made aware that they are doing a professional job, and they took an oath to follow the law and whatnot, abide by the law. So therefore, if the Coroner's Act is already there, why not strengthen it and to ensure that the police are really aware and they make it their duty to actually comply with the law? It's all about, as I said, the rule of law and our constitution and whatnot, and that's what it is all about. And the question of saying you're going to bring new legislation because it is I don't see the necessity for the new legislation. We have a Coroner's Act. It's an unnatural death. It goes before the coroner. What can be done instead of? He also said that some additional magistrates were appointed. Okay, but those magistrates already have a very heavy workload, and they would only sit to hold an inquest in and between the heavy workload. That is why it has been stretched out for so long. The inquest continues for almost a whole year in some cases, you know. So what I had suggested and I had actually written about to the Attorney General and the Minister of Home Affairs, why not, according to Section 3 of the Coroner's Act, appoint let the Judicial and Legal Services appoint a person of the ranking of a magistrate as a coroner who can sit continuously. The post of coroner existing as a post in the country, and that person can pay full attention to inquests and so forth, rather than have the magistrates now and again intermittently holding an inquest. It is not efficient in that way, and that is one of the reforms I think they should do. Appoint a coroner. I mean, there are persons who could be appointed as coroners. Just recently, 2 magistrates of tremendous experience in the law demitted office. You have persons out there who could sit as coroners on an ongoing basis to attend to, and especially with the frequency of police shootings, we need to have a coroner in place, and that is what I think the legislation really anticipated. We are not serious enough about those things. We don't pay sufficient attention. For years, the justice system has been neglected by administration after administration, and I hope we are learning lessons and realize that it is the justice system which underpins our society, underpins the political system. It is the politicians who enact the laws. They create those institutions. Why then they don't make it a point of duty to ensure that there is accountability and so forth? The whole thing just to me is ironic.
Yeah, but do you feel any degree of comfort or confidence that some of the suggestions that you alluded to might be taken more seriously in light of this latest development?
Well, I would hope so, or else what is the point? I mean to say, don't human beings ever learn lessons? I mean to say, I would really hope so, because as I say, it is a shame. It's as though when it comes to the justice system, we have been shown to be naked, and now we stand in all our nakedness before the US and maybe other parties in the international scene. So why not clothe ourselves, you know?
Okay. I believe we're due for another break. Let's take that break, and when we come back, we'll continue looking at the Prime Minister's address last night and some of the recommendations or suggestions that he made for moving forward. You're watching Newsmaker Live on DBS. I'm Kendall Burton. Our guest tonight, Mary Francis, attorney at law and human rights activist. We'll be right back.